Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Ask Dr. Argie Courageous Conversations Connect series. Listen, I'm Dr. Argie, and I am the founder and CEO of Faith Inc., that stands for Family and Individual Therapeutic Healing, and co-founder and executive director of Connections Matter LLC with my husband, Morgan E. Wilson Jr. Listen, here we connect with you every Monday through Friday to engage and have a dialogue that's fun with hot, juicy topics and sometimes even courageous conversations that are a little tough. So tonight, I said to you on November, we're going to be talking about fear every single night, right? I wanted you to do some things for me before we actually get started. I want you to STLC. Share, tag, like, and comment. Why? Because this is not just for you, it's for everyone in the atmosphere. So if you share, like, tag, and comment, then it can be for other people as well, right? So our topic tonight is fear of holiday shenanigans, holidays gone wrong. I hope that you guys are joining me. Again, it's we come to you every Monday night. This is Mindful Mondays, right? And if you follow us, we're going into our fifth or sixth week, right? If you follow us, we do Mindful Mondays where we talk about hot topics, sometimes juicy topics, sometimes courageous conversations, and then we flow into Thoughtful Thursdays or Testimonial Tuesdays. I'm sorry. We flow into Testimonial Tuesdays where we really ask you to give us questions about the topics that we had on Monday night. Then we transition into Work It Out Wednesdays. We take those questions, we reorder them. I'm going to be coming to you live on Wednesday night. Yes, when all of you are fixing your turkeys and preparing for Thanksgiving, and we're going to work it out. So you're going to take a little bit of a break for us to work it out. And then even on Thankful Thursdays or Thoughtful Thursdays, which is Thanksgiving, we're going to give you some points of power. We're going to give you some wonderful wisdom, and we're going to give you some inspiration that you can then flow into Freedom Fridays, where you let us know what you want to talk about. So last week, when we had Freedom Fridays, the one thing that you guys said you wanted to talk about is what happens when the holiday goes wrong, right? What happens when there's a fear of the holiday, as we call it, shenanigans? When things don't go as according to plan, or where the person that shows up doesn't bring anything, or where, someone wants to bring up drama from the past. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And we've got some great questions. I want to give a shout out to Marcia. Marcia's on. Thanks, Marcia, for joining on. Gwinnetta is on. Thanks, Gwinnetta, for joining. Tiffany's on. Not sure who else is on. We're just getting started. We started just a little bit late, so please forgive us for our tardiness. But this is an important conversation as we embark on Thanksgiving, right? Because what I've learned in the last, 20-something years that I've been doing this work is that holidays can be really stressful. They can be really stressful. Now, we go into Thanksgiving, and yes, the goal is to spend time with family and friends and to give thanks. But it becomes stressful when you start thinking that, I'm going to be hosting, and do I have everything ready? Or are people going to really help out and pitch in? Or what is the drama that's going to unfold that you didn't anticipate? Or am I going to get overwhelmed with anxiety because everything's not done exactly according to plan? There's a lot of things that can go on when we think about the holidays. And so there's a couple other, Precious is on. Hey, Precious, listen, I saw Precious early this morning. She was on, and I was thinking about that, Precious, because you were talking about the keys to the kingdom, right? And that we all have keys, and you were sitting in your car. So thank you for joining. You and your husband have a wonderful, wonderful ministry. They have the ministry, if you guys need to check it out, it's called the 4 Ps of Marriage. So maybe one day we all can collaborate about that. But in the meantime, I love that message, Precious, you had about the 4 keys to the keys to the kingdom. Because even when we're thinking about the holidays, and maybe going over to somebody else's house or hosting Thanksgiving dinner at our home, how many of us are anxiety ridden because we don't really feel like we have everything that we need, right? And we're sometimes fearful that things won't go exactly according to plan. So this topic, fear of holiday shenanigans, holidays going wrong, could happen and it probably has happened. I want to hear from you guys what your thoughts about that are. And I have quite a few tips to share with you as well with regards to what things you do when you're not quite ready, you haven't quite planned, it snuck up on you, you don't know who's going to show up. More people come to the house than you asked to come to the house. Maybe you have unexpected visitors that come. Or, quite frankly, you've decided to ratchet it down and go visit someone else, but you're not sure what to bring. Or, quite frankly, you don't know what the seating arrangement is, and then you fear that you're going to be sitting next to someone who you may have an estranged relationship with. Or you haven't done the forgiveness work, and so now you're going into the holiday season, and you're not sure how that person that you're not talking to is going to approach you, whether they're going to approach you or whether you need to approach them. There's a whole lot of questions in our heads when we think about holiday shenanigans and fears that come up that create a lot of anxiety for most of us. I hope this is resonating with some of you when we think about the Thanksgiving, because I know in my practice, what I've seen is an uptick of anxiety. What do you think about, the anxiety that we're all experiencing at various times, but around the holiday season, it happens a little bit more. And this is a deeper topic that we're going to talk about after Thanksgiving, but the fear of what happens if you're actually engaging in a ritual without the loved one that was here the previous holiday, right? Now, we're calling it holiday shenanigans. Those are not shenanigans, that's real. But sometimes when we're not feeling so well, we're experiencing loss, then we tend to act out a little bit. So listen, tell me what you guys think about that. Precious is still on. I want to see if there's anybody else on. There's Deidre's on. Hey, Deidre, thanks for joining in. Marcia is on online. Tiffany, Gwinnetta is on. Tell me what your thoughts about that are. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to make sure that you STLC, as we like to call it, share, like, tag, and comment, or share, tag, like, and comment, right? Because this is not just for us, it's for everyone else. And as I like to say, it's a dialogue. It's not a monologue, because these issues that we talk about in our Courageous Conversations Connect series are for everyone. We need to be all dialoguing about these conversations that, quite frankly, can go deeper. And sometimes we just don't have the rubric, we don't have the pathway, we don't even have a safe place to process. So my role as your transformational coach is to give you a pathway, give you some skills, give you some tools to really begin to unpack some of these conversations and begin to work with them in a healthy way. Does that make sense, guys? Last week, interesting enough, we talked about fear of success, right? That can happen in the holidays too. What happens is everything goes really well, and now next year or in the next holiday, everybody expects you to do it again and again. And then we don't know how to say no, because there's a part of us that feels good that everything went well, but then there's another part of us that's really overwhelmed because we're like, well, can't other people participate? Can't somebody else have Thanksgiving dinner at their house? So tell me what you think about that with regards to the keys that you need to have a successful and happy holiday without all of those shenanigans, right? Because the truth is that there is nothing that's perfect, and no holiday, no Thanksgiving, no dinner is going to go off perfect without a hitch. Most times, I say that, in the world of reality, the thing that we're most fearful about happens maybe about 10% of the time. It sometimes doesn't even happen at all. But we spend 90% of our time worrying about that thing that could possibly never happen. So what are your thoughts about that? I want to go over a few tips. One, you got to check in with yourself and your family. I think that's really, really important, because we need to be intentional about how we're spending our holiday and with whom we're spending our holiday, and give ourselves permission to create new traditions while holding on to old rituals. Now, that's really, really key, because if we don't give ourselves permission to do that within the holidays, then sometimes we find ourselves stuck in the old patterns, doing it the same way, not really sure why we're doing it the same way, and not really feeling the fulfillment that we need to fulfill or feel out of it. So check in with yourself and check in with your family members about what we're going to do, right? So I'll tell you a quick story. My husband and I, we weren't going to do Thanksgiving at our house this time. We decided that we were going to do it, and then we changed our mind. We said we were too tired, and then finally we had a conversation with our family members who said, you know what, we're going in the wrong direction. We have to do Thanksgiving, so let's do it at our parents' house, and everybody chip in. But we were trying to do it all ourselves, and we were trying to process it. What are your thoughts about that when you find yourself over functioning and you want to do it with without the support and the help of everyone else? I think we have a couple questions here. Precious has a question. And again, thanks for signing on, guys. Precious says, and I got to take my glasses off to look a little closer. I've used to over prepare. I used to over prepare and stress myself out. Looked around one day and found everyone was okay and didn't care about the color of the tablecloth. Interesting. So that reminds me, Precious, of how oftentimes the anxiety for most of us, including myself, causes us to over prepare, right? And at the end of the day, in fact, I do a lot of public speaking, and sometimes I used to prepare these elaborate PowerPoints with all of this data that I could not possibly get done in the 30 minutes that I had or the 45 minutes that I had. And the same thing goes with maybe having your event at your home. Nobody really cares, because at the end of the day, isn't Thanksgiving about being thankful and grateful and fellowshipping with your friends and your family in a way that allows us to spend good quality time together? So you're right, Precious. Nobody cares about the tablecloth. Nobody cares necessarily about whether or not, there's a number of chairs at the table. Sometimes you can bring in extra chairs. What people do kind of care about is that the food is good. So I would suggest that the persons who really cook well do the majority of the cooking, and the persons that don't cook so well, like yours truly, doesn't do all the cooking. But interestingly enough, when my mom first passed away and we were doing our first Thanksgiving dinner, I decided that I was going to do sweet potato pies and I was going to do potato salad, because my mother she made everything delicious, but those were some of her signatures. And my niece Morgan, I don't know if she's watching tonight, but she said, she'll be home for the holidays. She said, Aunt Argie, she said, don't you think you're being a little too ambitious? And I said, no, I'm going to, my team is laughing. I said, I'm going to make these pies in this potato salad. And this is what I need for you to do, because you got to ask for what you need, right? I said, I'm going to need you this first year after Grandma has passed away to eat it, to like it, and enjoy it. And if it's not good, lie. Don't tell me that it's not good, because I was a little sensitive. But by the way, it turned out delicious. Morgan helped me zhuzh it up a little bit. And talk about holidays gone wrong. Had that particular holiday when we were all sensitive and not sure what we were going to do, because my mother loved Thanksgiving and she was so great at it, right? Organizing everything. She just did the darn thing. So then her three daughters were left like, how do we do this? I'm sure I called one of my best friends, Lou, up and said, like, how do you, help me out with, because she's like the Black Martha Stewart, by the way, she and pretty much does everything else. But I asked her quite a few things about how to create an atmosphere where everyone would be comfortable. And the truth is, we just needed to be together at that time. And we ended up having a wonderful time. And every year after that, we've been able to communicate, talk about what we want to do, bring new rituals into our system, and then hold on to the old ones. So how about you? What are your thoughts about, anybody have any stories, this is Mindful Mondays, about what happens when it's not perfect, as Precious said, when you have some apprehension about your skills, or where you're not sure who's going to show up? We said check in with yourself, but also be clear about your priorities. That's really, really important, because when you think about it, the priorities, sometimes we get that mixed up with somebody else's agenda for what it is that we need to be doing. So whose agenda is it? Is it somebody who really wants it to be at your house and not theirs? Or are your priorities to give thanks, your priority for you all to be thoughtful about all the good and the ups and downs and in-betweens that have happened throughout the year? Is your priority to break bread together in a healthy way, right? And by the way, probably not the best time at Thanksgiving dinner to talk about the beef that you had with your cousin or your auntie or your sibling over the dinner table. One, I think that if we have unresolved issues, and y'all knew that I was going to say this, that you need to be in therapy. Everybody needs a good therapist on speed dial. So if you have conflict with someone, and certainly from a spiritual perspective, and Precious is on, you can use your spiritual advisor, you can, go deeper in your faith, whatever your faith is, you can journal about that and try then to have a courageous conversation. But if all else fails, then most of us don't always think that there is a third party like a therapist that can really help us to really process out in a safe and confidential environment those conversations that can help us to connect versus disconnect, right? Sometimes we think if we're going deeper and we have a courageous conversation, it's going to pull us apart, or the person's not going to like what we're going to say, or they're going to be upset with us if we speak our truth. But how many of us know that truth, trust, and transparency, sometimes it leads to what we like to say transformational breakthroughs, right? So if we're truthful with ourselves, then it allows us to go deeper with trusting ourselves and each other, that then allows us to move to a more transparent place. And sometimes, just sometimes, that transformational breakthrough can take both you and the other person to a whole nother level that helps you to be the best version of yourself. So think about that. Think about also taking good care of yourself, right? Too often, and I don't know how many folks are caretakers and caregivers, and I'm not sure if you even know this, but this is Caregiver Month, right? And so those of us who are really good at caregiving get that assignment all the time. And what's interesting about that is it shows up around the holidays when we have to stretch ourselves even more. So those who are good at it go deeper in stretching ourselves to take care of everybody else. But guess what we're not so good at? Want to take a guess? We're not so good at taking good care of ourselves. So then we find ourselves exhausted, depleted, overwhelmed, and then resentful, right? And sometimes we even get bitter and angry. And sometimes we have to then look at it and say, nobody held a gun to our heads. We actually made that decision. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy because we are beholden to our self-inflicted wounds, doing too much, never saying no, saying yes to everything. And oftentimes we say yes out of fear, right? Versus no out of love. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I'll unpack that a little bit for you. The yes out of fear is, will they like me? Will they accept me? Will they be mad at me? The yes is, I'll say yes even though I want to say no because I don't know what the outcome will be. Versus no out of love, really sometimes we need to be able to let people do what they need to do and love ourselves enough to step back at it and say no. So let me think about, I want you guys to weigh in. Remember, this is a monologue, a dialogue, not a monologue. So it means we're going to have a conversation with everyone about the fear of holiday shenanigans and holidays going wrong. Not only do we need to take care of ourselves, but get organized. The busier we are, the harder it is to stay organized. And how many of us know that sometimes we are not only not the best versions of ourselves, but when we're overwhelmed and overworked, right? And when we're stressed out and anxiety ridden, then somehow the person who was the most organized, that kind of goes in a downward spiral. So helping yourself to step back and reorganize yourself. And then here's what's really key. When you really think about the holidays, but this can be used for any situation, is it's okay to ask for help. Newsflash. Sometimes you have to ask for help from the persons who you didn't anticipate, right? Because I heard Oprah Winfrey say this a little bit earlier, that her mentor Dr. Maya Angelou said that sometimes when people show you who they are, that believe them, right? So here's a quick tip. Don't ask people for help who've always demonstrated to you that they're not good helpers, right? Because they've shown you who they are, and now you're asking them to do like 3 sides and a main meal, right, for Thanksgiving when they usually come late and leave early. So they've already demonstrated to you that they're not really good at helping. So I want to ask the team, if there are any questions that you guys have gotten out there already as it relates to the holiday shenanigans, as it relates to, as we sort of move into the shift about holiday shenanigans. Taking care of yourself means getting enough rest. My doctor just told me that, we all need 7 or 8 hours. If we're not getting that, we need to find other ways to get rest. We also need to try to not overextend ourselves, meaning we need to say no. And sometimes we need to sort of reach out and step back. The reaching out is saying, I might need you to go do this task while I step back from it in order to do something different, right? And then I would say the last thing is have realistic expectations of yourself. And this speaks to holiday shenanigans, right? Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. A sense of humor. Sometimes when everything is going wrong, we need to figure out a way to just laugh, right? Because sometimes it's just that, things are not going to go as smoothly as we planned and nobody really cares anyway. But find a way to laugh through this process so that you can enjoy it. Pastor Waller, my pastor years ago, he had a book called Enjoy the Journey, right? And sometimes enjoying the journey means that even when things aren't going the way that you want, even if people aren't acting right, even if the person that, shouldn't have shown up shows up and you don't have enough food or you don't have enough, to embrace everyone, laugh about it. Find some way to look at the humor in it. What are your thoughts about that? I want you guys to STLC, right? Do me a favor and share, tag, like, and comment. I want to know also if you will think about this as you're going through the holiday. I want to also know the crew has a question. I think the crew does have a question. You guys have a question? What's the question? Who's OB?
Yes, ma'am. So say I have an ex that is very close to my family and shows up at all of my family gatherings despite us being broken up for 3 years. I have a new boo, and he will also be at the dinner.
Wow.
If I ask my family not to invite my ex, is this being selfish?
That's a great question. I don't know who came up with that question, but that's a great question. And quite frankly, interesting enough, I actually have been called to do a family intervention because people have broken up, right? And so the family, here's the thing, when you break up, it's never neat. Even if you're not feeling, even if you wanted to break up, right? The bottom line is that it comes with attachments. So breakups don't happen in a nice, neat little box like a gift with a bow on top. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, and especially around the holidays, because if you've been together for a while and your old boo is connected to your family and they really like him or her and then invite them, then the problem is that now you want to bring your new person and you've got the old person. Can you say awkward? Really, really, really awkward. And so I would say that most of us have had that experience at some point in time. So courageous conversations with family members early. Don't get blindsided. Have the conversation right before you get to the Thanksgiving dinner and say, listen, I'm planning on bringing my new partner to Thanksgiving dinner. Can you work on, adjusting to the new norm and possibly request that they not invite the old person to the to Thanksgiving dinner? Now, here's what's really important. You have to be prepared when you ask that for a yes or no, because every question has 2 responses, really 3, but the 2 main ones is, yes, I will do that. I will honor your request. Or, heck no, I plan on inviting them anyway, and they have a right to do that. So If they say yes, then you've got your answer. If they say no, then you can determine whether or not you want to show up. But remember, when there's a blended family scenario or when you have breakups, there can be these complex, complicated scenarios where you haven't really dissolved with every single attachment that's connected to that system. And so sometimes people will show up that makes it really awkward. And you have to determine whether or not you are even prepared to deal with that, because some people are perfectly fine. You know, people have blended family scenarios where they're all connected. I think I think Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith talk about this in their Red Table Talk, how they incorporated Will Smith's ex into their family system. And it took a while, but they were able to do it. And there are other people that can do it. So I would say, you know, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't also mean you shouldn't do it. What it means is that you've got to put some more thought into doing it so that you do it well versus doing it in a way that creates conflict and discomfort. I wonder if there's anybody else on, and I wonder also if we have any other questions. Oh, I forgot, Veronica's on. I saw her. Hey, Veronica, how are you, honey? It's good to see you. Thanks for hopping on. Precious, yes, out of fear. Precious says, wow. You need a sense of humor. Tiffany said you need a sense of humor. You absolutely do. There's also James is on. Thanks for joining, James. Wanda is on. She said, tell me about it. Thanks for joining, Wanda. Let me know if you have some questions or if you also have any testimonials or any thoughts about good or bad holidays gone wrong when you tried to plan for every possible circumstance and yet you still sort of get blindsided. And is there another question for the crew?
One more question.
Okay. Okay.
So what advice would you give to a family experiencing complications such as dropping the turkey?
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, there's my crazy laugh. I don't know if you, for you guys that know me, and Shirley, my friend Shirley Purley, who I went, one of my very dearest friends, she talks about my laugh being infectious. I don't know whether it's just if it's infectious. That's great. I think it probably drives people crazy, but it's like this laugh that just kind of comes from my belly, and that's what I was just saying about just laughter. So it's not really funny, but I can tell you that I don't know if you all also know that I love animals. And in my single life, I had two big dogs. I had a Rhodesian Ridgeback and a Rottweiler. And the Rhodesian Ridgeback was about 125 pounds. Rottweiler was about 135. Why do I tell you this story? Well, because every holiday I would pack up my dogs because I was single and I would go to my parents' house. And I would hang out there for like 2 weeks, and my mom and dad, we would have a wonderful time. I didn't have any children. Those were my babies. And one Thanksgiving, Raja decided that he wanted ham for Thanksgiving, like the whole ham. So your story, your question reminds me of that, like whether you drop the turkey or whether the dog jumps on the table and eats the whole ham. And by the way, although I was laughing, other family members didn't find it so funny. I think that if someone drops the turkey or a main part of the meal, then you have to create some workarounds. You have to figure it out. You might not be able to go to the store to get another turkey. You certainly don't have another 24 hours to put it in the oven. So here's the good news. We're talking about, you know, courageous conversations and making, I like to think in my head, to how do you make lemons out of lemonade? Or how do you create a silver lining? Making lemons out of lemonade and creating a silver lining is saying that, is it really about that turkey? You know, the turkey that actually was alive not too long ago, and then, you know, somehow they found themselves on your table. Or is it about fellowshipping and family and friendship and, you know, spending quality time together? So I guarantee you that even if you don't get to eat your turkey, there'll probably be, the way that we do things, there's a whole bunch of other wonderful, you know, wonderful food items on that table. And you can use humor to embrace it, right? Use humor to embrace it. Here's some other things I want to share with you. There are 4 survival tips to deal with holiday shenanigans. One is the serenity prayer. I don't know if you guys know the serenity prayer out there, but it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom. That's the key, the wisdom to know the difference, because there's some things we just cannot change. But we have to know the difference. And we have to be able to say no, as I already said. Also create an action plan. I would say create an action plan and an exit strategy, because sometimes your action plan incorporates the exit strategy. What happens when you do need to kind of exit stage left because you're finding yourself overwhelmed with anxiety, or you're finding yourself feeling maybe like you're getting triggered by maybe emotions that are coming up. It requires sometimes that we take stock of what's going on in our own lives, and then we figure out how to deal with that. Review our plan, right? And then finally, when we think about it, we have to figure out who is going to be our support system, right? Everyone needs a support system. They need a little bit of a tag team. Who's their go-to person? Who's the person that they need to text, reach out to, cry, scream, yell? Who is their person? We all need a person like that to help us to not just go through the holiday, but to grow through the holiday. Does that make sense, guys? I hope if this does make sense, and I think there's some more people on. There's Kirk is on. Hey, Kirk, how are you? It's good to see you. Carol's on. Wanda's on. Shout out to Wanda. Shout out to James. I don't think we had. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Precious, Gwinnetta, Marcy, Veronica. Thank you guys for joining. I know that, I don't take this lightly, like that it is a Monday night. This is Mindful Mondays, and people have a whole lot of things on their plate. So I'm hoping that this is helpful to you. The goal of this Courageous Conversations Connect series is to help families to have conversations and heal one courageous conversation at a time, right? And for us to work towards healing. And part of that is to be able to engage together. I like to say that we have a crew here. Our crew stands for Connecting Relationships for Epic Wins. And what we do in our crew is we have these amazing conversations that help us to go deeper, if you will. So we're going to bring this conversation to a close, but if you I want you to, if this was helpful to you, then I hope that you will do what we've asked, which is to STLC, share, tag, like, and comment. I also want to let you all know that I'll be on the Tom Joyner Morning Show tomorrow morning. We're going to be talking about a different topic. I'll be talking with Jackie Reed between 8 and I think 8:30. And the topic actually is really, really interesting. So tune in. It's about how much do you censor your children having personal points of affection during the holidays with family members. So it's an interesting topic, like, hugging. We talk about stranger danger, right? But then when it comes to our family, a child might be uncomfortable. We're like, oh, hug your auntie or uncle, or, sit on their lap. But, so there's sort of the balance between that. So we're going to be talking about that and unpacking that a little bit more, because I think that will really help for those of you who have children around the holidays. Y'all let me know if this has been helpful to you. We always say, our tagline is, are you helping to harm or healing the hurt? Our goal is to help or heal the hurt, not help to harm. And words matter. Words matter. So listen, I am Dr. Argie. I've been your transformational coach. And my goal here is to come to you every single week, Monday through Friday, with really, really great content. Tomorrow, it's going to be Testimonial Tuesdays. So I hope that you guys will have your questions ready. I hope that you will take this conversation, tell me what questions you want me to unpack for you, and work it out Wednesdays when we come on. And then we'll go into Thankful Thursdays on Thanksgiving, giving you points of power, words of wisdom, aspiration, and inspiration. And we'll wrap it up on Freedom Fridays with anything that you want us to talk about the following week. I hope this has been helpful to you. Have a wonderful and beautiful evening on purpose, from my heart to yours.